A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Do not imagine that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to complete them. I tell you solemnly, till heaven and earth disappear, not one dot, not one little stroke shall disappear from the law until its purpose is achieved. Therefore, the man who infringes even one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be considered the least in the kingdom of heaven. But the man who keeps them and teaches them will be considered great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, if your virtue goes no deeper than that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never get into the kingdom of heaven. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Hello and good evening. My name is Tim Joy. This is my 40th year in education, which is still kind of shocking to me. I grew up in Southeast Portland, attended Holy Family School, went to LaSalle High School, and one of my best friends from LaSalle is from this parish, Craig Cameron. I've been married to Kim for 42 and a half years. We have 5 children and 5 grandchildren. Life is full. So what I want to do is tell you 2 things. First is trying to imagine what it was like to be there at the Sermon on the Mount. What was that like for folks 2,000 years ago? And then come back here now. And do I need to get closer? Is this better? Thank you, Ruth. So this is something I try to do all the time, is put myself there. What would it be like? What was the scene that day? And imagine the setting. From what I gather, crowds had gathered in a kind of natural bowl just in front of the Sea of Galilee, and there's hills all around, and Jesus is up on the top of a hill. It's hot. There's hundreds of people, and I look up there and I can see him. There's a wind behind him, and his cloak billows with each breeze. Everyone's there, the always Jesus crowd and the never Jesus crowd, the Pharisees and the scribes, and the vast many, like me, curious. I see Jesus up there and turn to the men nearest him, and I know a few of them. There's John and there's Judas and Thomas. Then it's like he's looking right at me. He starts, I get a nudge from the back, and he's looking at me. And I'm trying to make sense of what he's saying. Blessed are those who mourn. And this, it's new and it's puzzling. Who are the poor in spirit? And then he talks about the law and the prophets, that he completes them. He's going too fast for me. I can't make sense of it. I'm kind of lost, but I'm absolutely spellbound. And then he's talking to me. It looks like he's pointing right at me. If your virtue goes no deeper than that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never get into the kingdom of heaven, he says. And there it is. He's telling me what I have to do, and I don't know if I can do it. So it's St. Charles now. It's 2023. And the short answer is, I'm still not sure what he's talking about. How does he complete the law? How do I know what the virtue of the scribes and the Pharisees is? What does a deeper virtue look like? And I think of my lifelong faith journey that's been, well, full of a lot of different things. Some wonderful things, some terrible, grief-filled things. The deal is with me, the more I think of Jesus as the Son of God, it feels more remote, harder to get to. The more I consider his humanity, all the grit and the grunt of it, our frailties, our losses, our deliberate and unwitting wounds we inflict, and all those wounds and all those wounds we carry decades after we receive them. Jesus knows what this is. He knows what this life is. And that helps me listen to him. After this kingdom of heaven statement, he starts a long list of, you've heard it said, but now I tell you statements. And he's talking about regular things. I've been angry and I've failed people I love and trust, and I've hurt people close to me. He's talking about anger and forgiveness, betrayal and mercy, pride and humility. In all of that, Jesus is talking about a moral code that I should live by. Of course, that's the deeper value he's talking about. How I love those closest to me tells me how I should treat those furthest from me. It's not something imposed from an authority, but it's something inside me that recognizes the divine, the transcendent, and the dignity of everybody around me. Back then, and even today, the law is kind of an orthodoxy, the letter of the law and all. That was the thing, but my take is that Jesus would call that a shallow virtue. The virtue deeper than the scribes and Pharisees. The law is not a rule, it's a moral depth. An emphasis on humility and purity of heart and mercy. Suddenly, I'm getting this feel for how Jesus completes the law. He's telling me that my life is about how I show up in every relationship in my life. And I wonder how I've done there. And I wonder how I can be better.